Can you state your name, please?
Michael Gammons.
How are you employed, Mr. Gammons?
I work for Montgomery County 911.
Are you a dispatcher?
Yes.
And were you working in that same capacity on June 8th of 2017?
I was, yes.
On that date, did you receive a call, or were you part of handling a call from Lynlee Renick regarding the death of her husband?
Yes.
Who else was present at the dispatch center?
My partner, Teresa, took the call. I helped on the radio, and our relief was coming. It was shift change, so our partner, Jake, was in the back of the room as well.
And is Jake Andrews, is his last name?
Correct.
And was he the one inputting the information into the system?
No, it was Teresa.
Teresa was inputting, and what were you doing?
I was just kind of helping out where she needed, basically working the radio, talking to the responding units.
Dispatching?
Correct.
Essentially?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 98. Do you recognize that?
I do.
What is it?
This is what we would call a blue card or an event card.
And is that a fair and accurate copy?
Absolutely.
Your Honor, I move to admit State's Exhibit 98.
Any objection, 98, please?
Sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, no, it's a catchy.
Any objection?
No objection.
98 be admitted.
Yes, please.
Now, what do you want to do? You want to put it on there?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, just a second.
Can you see that on the screen in front of you, Mr. Gammons?
I can, yeah.
And this is a call card information. This just details the 911 call that comes in. Is that accurate?
Correct. It keeps track of the times for responding units, and then also basically just like a synopsis of what took place.
And based on that, what time did the call from Lynlee Renick come in?
The call was received at 18:35.
Which is what?
6:35.
6:35 p.m.?
Yeah.
Nothing further, Judge.
Nothing further to say?
Yes, sir.
Cross.
Yeah, you have a copy of your 911 tape with you?
I do not.
Okay. Now, this was just when the call for help came in, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else?
No, sir.
May this witness be finally excused?
Your Honor, we're going to call them ourselves.
All right, you step down, but you're subject to recall by them, okay?
Okay.
All right, call your next witness.
State calls Harley Ault. Can you state your name, please?
Deputy Harley Ault,
How are you employed, sir?
with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office
And how long have you been a deputy in Montgomery County?
since May of 2016.
Were you working in that same capacity on June 8th of 2017?
Yes,
And on that date, were you dispatched to Renick Reptiles?
yes I was.
What was the nature of the call?
We were called for a man down, believed to be a snake attack.
A man lying in a pool of blood, do you recall that?
Correct.
Montgomery County's pretty rural, is it not?
Yes it is.
And can you just briefly describe this area of Renick Reptiles? What's the property like?
The property, there's a couple buildings, there's a house, at least one house, and there's a, where Renick Reptiles was, it's kind of an outbuilding.
And sits on a fair amount of acreage, is that fair?
Yes it does.
When you were, prior to your arrival at Renick Reptiles, were you given information that there was possibly a 500-pound anaconda on the loose?
Yes I was.
So when you arrive, what's the first thing you do?
The first thing we do is walk up to the structure, of course. We make contact with a female outside that we later find out is Lynlee Renick. She's hysterical. So we go into the building and we start searching for this snake that is allegedly on the loose.
And was EMS already there?
Yes, they were.
Did you observe Ben Renick's body?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you clear the house? Or
Yeah.
clear the building?
Yes,
And that was because you're still looking for this snake, is that right?
that is correct.
And eventually, do you determine that there is in fact not a snake on the loose?
That is correct.
And at some point, does Dave Colbert arrive on scene?
Yes, he does.
Who is Dave Colbert?
Dave Colbert is the Montgomery County coroner.
And after Mr. Colbert arrives, at some point, are you given information that this is not a snake attack, that this is a homicide, or quite possibly a homicide?
Yes, after Coroner Colbert examines the body.
And so then you clear the structure, and it's now a crime crime scene, is that right?
That is correct.
Nothing further.
Deputy, good morning. It was not Lynlee that said it was a snake, right? It was Sam Renick.
That is correct.
Now, you were not involved in the investigation of the Renick homicide, is that correct?
Correct.
Your knowledge is limited to just that very first night.
Yes, sir.
You did not take any property from the scene.
No, sir.
You were not given any property by anybody else.
No, sir.
No one reported any tips to you or anything like that, right?
No, sir. Correct.
You were basically there just to maintain security on the scene, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're trained to document suspicious things in your reports, right?
Yes, sir.
And you actually did document something that you thought at the time was suspicious, right?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
I had spoken to Sam, which is Ben's brother, and he had mentioned that Ben was in the midst of some kind of monetary deal with a gentleman, I don't know who, and he made the comment that Ben was cheap, I believe is how it was said.
Okay, that was suspicious and you documented it.
Correct.
And Sam has been cleared of any wrongdoing at all in this case, right?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
And you documented all the relevant facts that you saw that night, right?
Yes.
And everything in your report, I think you said was true and accurate and all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you documented in your report that Lynlee Renick was hysterical?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's never changed?
No.
Okay. No one ever came up to you that night and said that she might be faking it or anything like that, correct?
Not from what I recall, no.
Okay. And you were deposed this year, correct?
That is correct.
For the benefit of the jury, can you explain what a deposition is and kind of what happens there?
Deposition is the defense attorney or attorneys will cross-examine the witness and get a record of our best recollection of events on a particular crime scene or incident that may have taken place.
Thank you. Very good. Do you remember being asked on a scale of 1 to 10 how hysterical Lynlee Renick was?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how hysterical was Lynlee Renick or distraught do you recall saying?
I would say, from what I recall, I believe I said a 10.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes, sir.
And you also had a body camera
That is correct.
that recorded all of her being hysterical that night.
Yes, sir.
And I want to change topics, Deputy. There were a lot of people, right?
Yes.
And there were a lot of people, so Sam Renick was there.
Yes.
There were several EMT paramedics there.
Yes.
There were 3 or 4 firefighters there.
That's correct.
You were there.
Yes.
Brian McGowan, another officer, was there.
Yep.
There were then a couple of highway patrol investigators.
Yes, sir.
The sheriff of Montgomery County, Matt Shue, was there.
Yes.
Then there were a snake employee and his father, John and William Philippak.
Yes.
And then I think there were 10 or 12 people actually inside the facility at one point in time, right?
I believe so, yes, sir.
Okay. So a lot of people are looking at Lynlee Renick.
Yes.
Fair?
That's fair.
Okay. And they're observing her and they're watching her all night, right?
Yes.
Nobody pulled you aside and said she's acting suspicious or she smells like something or anything like that?
Not from what I recall.
You would have documented if they had done that, right?
Yes, sir.
Just like you documented Sam being suspicious.
Yes, sir.
So 20 people or so watching this woman and not one of them says anything suspicious to you.
Correct.
Now, you also testified about people who are on methamphetamine and how they act, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said they lack judgment, is that true?
Yes, sir.
And you come into contact with meth users a lot in your job?
Fairly frequently, yes, sir.
Okay. And you also, I asked you about an individual named Brian Higginbotham.
Yes, sir.
Who's Brian Higginbotham?
Brian Higginbotham is a person that I've had many professional contacts with due to his usage of methamphetamine and other illicit substances.
Could I have 1 moment, Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
You got a redirect?
Yes, sir. How long were you on the scene with Lynlee Renick?
A few hours from what I recall.
Was she hysterical the entire time you were on scene?
After the initial hysterics, as time went on, she was less hysterical, yes.
So she wasn't, by the time you left, she wasn't as hysterical as she was when you showed up, right?
Correct.
And I don't know, I wasn't counting how many people Mr. Hessman said were there, but I think of about 20 first responders and other people, is that right?
Give or take, yes.
At any time, did you hear Lynlee Renick tell any of those 20 people that Michael Humphrey murdered her husband?
No.
Nothing further, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and this witness be finally excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. You can step down.
Thank you.
I'd like to give him a break around 10:30. You got like a 15-minute witness? However,
My next one will not even
I mean, it doesn't have to
15
be right
minutes.
at 15.
Yeah,